Never in my life did I think I'd be sharing this story, but here we are. Fair warning, this is long, but trust me, the payoff is worth it. I'm 33, been working in commercial contracting since I was 19, fresh out of trade school. Started with the basics, mixing cement, carrying drywall, running electrical lines, worked my way up. Now, I manage multimillion-dollar projects, overseeing crews of 50-plus guys. It's not Silicon Valley money, but I make a good living. Enough to afford a house in a decent neighborhood, a lifted F-250 that I rebuilt myself, and my membership at the kind of gym where chalk clouds the air and no one skips leg day. Then there's Vanessa. Imagine the picture-perfect, Instagram model-type real estate agent. Flowing dark hair, flawless smile, and a collection of tight skirts that leave little to the imagination. She knew how to work a room, how to make people feel like they were the only person in the world when she spoke to them. That's how she got me. I met her at a house showing when I was finishing up a Reno job. She sold million-dollar homes to guys in suits, but that night, she was flirting with me, the guy covered in sawdust and sweat. I didn't question it. Maybe I should have. We dated for 2 years, got married in a beachside ceremony that cost more than I ever thought I'd spend on a single day. But she wanted it perfect. I figured, why not? If it made her happy, it was worth it. For a while, life was good. She had her high-end listings. I had my contracts. We moved into a new-build townhouse that we split down the middle, half from my savings, half from hers. Or so I thought. She insisted on handling the paperwork. Said it was easier that way, since she knew all the right people in real estate. I was too busy with back-to-back projects to argue. Then, 6 months ago, things started getting weird. Vanessa had always been busy, but suddenly, she was never home. Late nights at networking events, weekends taken up by these high-society, women's retreats that, according to her, were all about female empowerment and financial independence. I was proud of her, until I started noticing little things. She'd come home smelling like expensive cologne I didn't own. Her phone, once always face up on the table, was now locked and glued to her hand. And she suddenly cared way too much about the details of our mortgage. "Babe," she said one night, sitting on the couch with her laptop, "I've been looking at our finances, and I think we should put the house under my name alone. My credit score is better. We'd get a better interest rate." I was sitting at the kitchen island, still sweaty from the gym, fork halfway to my mouth. Something about the way she said it didn't sit right. "You trust me, right?" she added, flashing that same smile that had sold houses worth millions. I played dumb. Years in the construction industry had taught me when to speak and when to just nod and let people talk. This was one of those times. I asked for time to think about it. That night, I barely slept. Something wasn't adding up. A week later, my best friend Jordan, one of my HVAC guys, sent me a photo. It was Vanessa, dressed to the nines, sitting at a steakhouse across from a man in a three-piece suit. They weren't reviewing real estate listings. The guy? Liam Carter, one of the top divorce attorneys in the city. That was when I knew. She wasn't just planning to leave me. She was planning to take everything. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Years on job sites had taught me patience. You don't start swinging a hammer until you're sure where the nails need to go. Instead, I started watching. Vanessa got bolder, or maybe she thought I was too busy or too dumb to notice. Her phone, once always tucked away, was now surgically attached to her hand, flipped screen down any time I walked into the room. She took more last-minute client meetings in the evenings, always in expensive outfits I'd never seen before. She wasn't dressing for house showings. She was dressing for someone. Then, one night, I caught her in a slip-up. It was late, past midnight, when I got home from a site inspection. Vanessa was in the living room, curled up with a glass of wine, scrolling through her phone. Her feet were tucked under her, perfectly relaxed. "Hey," I said, tossing my work boots by the door. "Didn't think you'd be up." She looked up, startled for a split second, before recovering. "Couldn't sleep. Had a stressful day." I nodded, grabbing a bottle of water from the fridge. "Yeah? Big sale?" Her eyes flickered, and then she shrugged. "Sort of. Just some legal stuff with a client's closing." I waited. That was her mistake. The silence. Vanessa never let a conversation hang. She filled the air, controlled the narrative, made sure she was always the most interesting person in the room. But tonight, she was waiting for me to move on. I didn't. Instead, I sipped my water and leaned against the counter. Legal stuff, huh? You need me to look at anything? Another flicker of hesitation. No, it's all good. Just a complicated contract. I nodded again. Said nothing. A minute passed. Then she got up. I'm going to bed. I let her go, but I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called Jordan. Dude, he said when he picked up, you're not gonna like this. He sent me another photo of Vanessa at a coffee shop, sitting across from Liam Carter again. Only this time, she wasn't in a business suit. She was dressed casually, comfortably. Not selling. Not networking. Just being herself. She wasn't meeting him as a lawyer. She was meeting him as a partner. That night, I did something I never thought I'd have to do. I checked our mortgage records. And that's when I saw it. 2 weeks ago, a request had been filed. A transfer of ownership. Our house, the one I'd paid for, the one we'd built a life in, was in the process of being signed over to her. I stared at the screen, my hands tightening into fists. She hadn't just been planning to leave me. She was making sure I had nothing when she did. That's when I knew I couldn't just play defense. I needed to hit first. I wasn't stupid enough to go charging in, demanding answers. That's what she wanted. A reaction. Something she could use against me when she finally pulled the trigger on whatever plan she was cooking up. No, I played it smart. First, I made a few phone calls. One to my bank, another to a lawyer friend, Mason, and a third to an old buddy who worked in private investigations. I told them all the same thing. I think my wife is trying to screw me over, and I need to be ready when she does. Mason looked over the mortgage documents I pulled and confirmed my worst fear. Vanessa had somehow gotten the ball rolling on transferring ownership to herself, and if it went through, I'd have no legal claim to the house. She must have forged my approval, or worse, found a loophole in the paperwork I had stupidly trusted her to handle. You've got time, Mason told me. It's not finalized yet, but you need to play it cool. Act like you don't know. Let her think she's still in control. Easier said than done. For the next week, I had to pretend like everything was normal. Vanessa was still working late, still coming home smelling like expensive cologne, still flashing that perfect, practiced smile when she wanted something. And I played my part. I kissed her goodbye in the mornings, sent her texts about dinner plans, even let her steal bites of my food when we ate together. But at night, I prepared for war. I had my private investigator, Dave, start tailing her. I didn't give him much, just the names I already knew, Liam Carter, her lawyer friend, and a few high-end spots she liked to frequent. 2 days later, he sent me photos. Vanessa, with Liam, having dinner, having drinks, holding hands across the table like they weren't in the middle of conspiring to ruin me. It got worse. The next day, Dave caught them meeting with a notary. A damn notary. She wasn't just moving money. She was finalizing paperwork. I was running out of time. That night, I made my move. After she went to bed, I slipped into her office, the one I never bothered going into because she always said it was her work sanctuary. The first thing I noticed? Her laptop, wide open, logged into her email. I knew I shouldn't. I knew it was wrong. I did it anyway. The first email I saw was from Liam. Subject, final steps. Vanessa. Everything is in place. The house will be in your name by next week. Once it's finalized, you can file. Like we discussed, the prenup won't matter if we do this right. I told you I'd take care of everything. My pulse pounded in my ears. I scrolled further. More emails. Attachments. Property documents. Divorce drafts. Proof that this wasn't some last-minute betrayal. She'd been planning it for months. And then I saw something that almost made me laugh. Another email, this one not from Liam, but from a real estate agency. A purchase agreement. Vanessa wasn't just taking the house. She was selling it. She was about to blindside me with divorce, take the home I thought we shared, and flip it for cash before I even knew what hit me. And judging by the number in the contract, she was set to make a fortune. I sat back, my hands clenched into fists. She thought she had me. She thought I wouldn't see it coming. She had no idea who she was dealing with. I closed her laptop, stood up, and left her office without a sound. By the time she woke up the next morning, I had already executed my plan. Vanessa thought she was 10 steps ahead. What she didn't know was that I was already 20 ahead of her. The morning after I found the emails, I got to work. I had a tight window before her little scheme went into full effect, but I had something she didn't, an actual strategy instead of just a greedy power grab. First stop? My lawyer, Mason. I laid everything out, the emails, the forged paperwork, the sale agreement she was trying to push through. Mason barely blinked before going full attack mode. She's committing fraud on multiple levels, he said, flipping through the documents. Forgery, financial deception, possibly even conspiracy if Carter's involved. If we act fast, we can shut this down before she thinks she's won. That was all I needed to hear. Within an hour, Mason filed an emergency injunction to freeze any property transfers under my name. That meant Vanessa couldn't finalize the house takeover and her sale? Dead in the water. Next, I called my bank. I had already moved my personal savings into a separate account weeks ago, but now I put a fraud alert on anything connected to our joint assets. If she tried to move money, it would trigger an immediate investigation. And then, the best part, I sent my own private investigator after Liam Carter. See, Vanessa thought she was so damn smart, trusting the best divorce lawyer in town. But she forgot one thing. Liam Carter was a dirty lawyer. And dirty lawyers leave tracks. By the time I got home that night, I had everything set in motion. Vanessa, of course, had no idea. She greeted me at the door like nothing was happening, gave me that perfect realtor smile, and said, "Babe, I ordered takeout. Thought we could have a little date night." I almost laughed. A date night? The woman who was actively trying to steal my house and clean me out in court wanted to cuddle up over some Thai food like we were happy newlyweds? I played along. We ate. She asked about my day. I gave her the usual complaints about subcontractors, delays on the site, the usual stress of running a job. Meanwhile, my phone was buzzing with updates from Mason. Injunction approved. Property transfer blocked. Fraud alert triggered. Bank flagged all recent account activity. PI found dirt on Carter. You're going to love this. I kept my face neutral, finished my food, and even kissed Vanessa on the cheek when she leaned in. She had no clue. But she would soon. The next morning, while she was still sleeping, I grabbed my gym bag, got in my truck, and drove straight to Mason's office. He was grinning when I walked in. "Hope you didn't have breakfast yet, because you're about to feast on some justice." He tossed a folder onto the table. Inside? A full report on Liam Carter. Turns out, my investigator didn't just find out about Liam's shady dealings, he found other victims. Liam had helped multiple women do exactly what Vanessa was trying to do, transfer marital assets, sell them quickly, and then file for divorce while their husbands were left scrambling. The kicker? A few of those women had gone after high-profile clients, and one of them had already filed a bar complaint against Liam. This wasn't just a one-time scam. It was a pattern. And now, I had all the proof I needed to destroy them both. Mason leaned back in his chair. "So, here's what we do. We file a formal fraud claim against both Vanessa and Carter. With the financial records, the forged paperwork, and Carter's history, this is going to bury them." I exhaled slowly, my grip tightening around the folder. "How long before they know?" Mason smirked. "Not long. We're serving them today." I left his office feeling something I hadn't felt in weeks: control. Vanessa thought she was running the show. She thought she had trapped me. She had no idea the trap was already set for her. By the time I got home that night, the wheels were already turning. Vanessa still had no idea what was coming. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself, pouring a glass of wine like she didn't have a care in the world. She glanced over at me with that polished, effortless smile. "Hey, babe," she said, leaning against the counter. "How was work?" I stared at her for a second, at the woman who had been planning to ruin me while pretending to care. I smirked. "Oh, it was a very productive day." She didn't pick up on the tone. She was too busy thinking she had me wrapped around her finger. Then, the knock at the door came. Vanessa frowned, setting her glass down. "Are you expecting someone?" I shrugged, playing dumb. "No idea." She walked over, swaying her hips like she always did when she wanted to keep my attention on her. "It used to work. Not anymore." She pulled open the door, and there they were, the process servers. "Vanessa Carter?" one of them asked, his voice professional and neutral. Her entire body stiffened. "It's Vanessa King." "Not for much longer." The server handed her a thick envelope. "You've been served." I will never forget the way her face drained of color as she looked down at the legal documents. She flipped through them, her hands trembling. Then, her eyes snapped to me, fury replacing the confusion. "What the hell is this?" I crossed my arms. "Oh, you know, just the evidence of fraud, forgery, and financial deception you've been committing against me." She swallowed hard. "You. And that's not all." I stepped forward, lowering my voice just enough for her to hear. You're not the first woman Carter has helped pull this scam. He's already under investigation. Which means you are too. Her breath hitched. Good. I leaned in closer. You thought you could screw me over and walk away with everything? Bad news, Vanessa. You just lost it all. She lost it. You set me up, she shrieked, shoving the envelope against my chest. You were planning this the whole time, weren't you? I smirked. What can I say? I learned from the best. Her hands clenched into fists. You can't do this. You can't. Oh, but I can. I took the papers from her, flipping to one of the pages. See this? That's a court order freezing the property transfer, which means you don't own the house. I do. Her lips parted, her confidence crumbling. Mike. I was just. Save it, I snapped, stepping back. I don't care what you have to say. You tried to ruin me. You and Carter thought you had this all figured out, huh? Well, guess what? You picked the wrong guy to screw over. She was shaking. Not out of fear, no. Vanessa didn't feel fear. She felt rage. You think this is over? She hissed. You think you can just embarrass me, humiliate me like this? I tilted my head. You haven't even seen humiliation yet. And right on cue, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Froze. Looked at me again, panic flickering in her eyes. I grinned. Go ahead, I said. Check it. She hesitated, then swiped at her phone screen. And there it was. Liam Carter. All over the news. My private investigator had leaked everything, his shady history, the fraud schemes, the lawsuits piling up against him. The headline? Prominent divorce attorney accused of fraud, multiple victims step forward. Vanessa's hands were trembling as she scrolled through the article. Her eyes flickered between the screen and the legal documents in her other hand. And then, for the first time since this started, I saw real fear in her eyes. You just lost everything, Vanessa, I murmured. Your lawyer is about to lose his license. You're about to lose your career. And the house. I stepped back, gesturing around us. You never had a chance. She looked up at me, hatred burning behind her eyes. But there was nothing she could do. She had played her hand. And I had beaten her at her own game. Pack your bags, I said, voice cold. You're leaving tonight. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, her entire world crashing down around her. And damn, did it feel good. The thing about people like Vanessa? They don't go down without a fight. For the next few days, she tried everything. First, it was denial. You can't just throw me out, she scoffed the morning after she was served. She was standing in our kitchen, my kitchen, wearing one of those silk robes she used to prance around in, like she still owned the place. I didn't even look up from my coffee. You don't live here anymore. She laughed, like I had just told the funniest joke in the world. I'm your wife, Mike. I smirked. Yeah? You should check those papers again. Then came the bargaining. 2 nights later, she showed up in my room, hair wet from a shower, wearing the kind of lingerie she used to pull out on anniversaries. She leaned in the doorway, biting her lip. We don't have to do this, she murmured. We can talk. Work things out. I looked up from my phone, expression blank. No, we really can't. Her lip twitched. Come on, baby. I made a mistake, but I cut her off. You tried to steal my house, my money, and my future. You lied to my face, slept with a guy who makes a living screwing over men like me, and then expected to walk away richer. I stood, walked to the door, and gestured to the hallway. You can leave the easy way, I said. Or you can leave when the sheriff escorts you out in a week. Her eyes went cold. She stormed out without another word. Then came the rage. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of things being slammed around downstairs. By the time I got to the kitchen, Vanessa had trashed the place, plates shattered, silverware scattered, a wine glass broken on the counter. She was standing there, breathing hard, fist clenched. I took one look at the mess, then at her. You done? Her nostrils flared. You ruined my life. I leaned against the doorway. Nah, you did that yourself. She threw something, her empty wine glass. It shattered against the wall beside me. I didn't flinch. She wanted me angry, wanted a reaction, wanted something she could use against me. I just smirked. That the best you got? She let out a growl of frustration and stomped past me, shoving my shoulder as she went. A few minutes later, she came back with a suitcase in hand. She stopped at the door, glaring at me. I hope you choke on this victory. I grinned. Oh, don't worry. I'm enjoying every second of it. She slammed the door so hard the windows rattled. And just like that, Vanessa was gone. But it wasn't over. A week later, Mason called. You're gonna love this, he said, amusement thick in his voice. I leaned back in my truck. Hit me. She's trying to fight back. I snorted. Of course, she is. She filed a motion claiming emotional distress, saying you set her up and manipulated her into signing documents under duress. I laughed. Actually laughed. She does realize we have months of evidence proving otherwise, right? Oh, it gets better, Mason chuckled. Carter dropped her. That wiped the smirk off my face. Wait, what? Yep. Liam Carter is in full self-preservation mode. His license is hanging by a thread, and now that all his other clients are turning on him, he's got no time for her. He filed a withdrawal from her case this morning. I let out a low whistle. Damn. Cold. Oh, it gets even better. I raised an eyebrow. You keep saying that. Mason paused, like he was savoring the moment. Her father disowned her. That one hit different. I sat up straighter. Come again. Her dad, big-shot real estate mogul, found out what she did. He was pissed. Apparently, he built his name on integrity and didn't take too kindly to his daughter committing financial fraud. I let out a slow whistle. And Mason grinned. Cut her off completely. I leaned back in my seat, letting it sink in. Vanessa had spent months planning to screw me over. Now, she had nothing. No house. No career. No money. No lawyer. Not even her daddy to bail her out. She bet everything on this scheme. And she lost. I exhaled, a satisfied grin spreading across my face. Feels good, man. It was over. Vanessa was gone. The house was mine. Liam Carter's career was in the gutter. And best of all, I was free. For the first time in months, I didn't have to watch my back. Didn't have to second-guess every conversation, every glance, every little moment of normalcy. I could just live. I threw myself into work, took on bigger projects, started hitting the gym harder than ever. There was something about rebuilding, whether it was a house, a career, or just myself, that felt damn good. Then, one evening, about a month after Vanessa walked out, I ran into Jordan at the bar near our usual work site. He was smirking before I even sat down. Dude, you are gonna love this. I chuckled. I feel like I've heard that a lot lately. He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a second, then slid it across the bar. And there it was. Vanessa. Only, not the Vanessa I knew. The designer clothes? Gone. The flawless hair? A mess. That effortless confidence she used to wear like armor? Completely shattered. She was sitting at some rundown cafe, hunched over, wearing a receptionist uniform. I frowned. Wait, where is this? Jordan grinned. Dentist's office. One of my girlfriend's friends works there. Vanessa's answering phones now. I blinked. She got a job as a receptionist? He nodded. After her dad cut her off, she couldn't find real estate work. No one would hire her. Not with that fraud charge hanging over her head. I leaned back, whistling low. Damn. Best part. Jordan took a sip of his beer. She tried to get a place in the city, but her credit is wrecked. She's living with her mom now. I couldn't stop the smirk that spread across my face. Vanessa had spent months plotting to take me down. She thought she could walk away with everything. And now? She was back at square one. But here's the real kicker. A few weeks later, I was at the gym, hitting deadlifts, when I spotted a familiar face. Vanessa. She was standing by the entrance, shifting awkwardly, clutching a water bottle like it was a lifeline. For a split second, I thought she might walk over. Try to apologize. Maybe even try to weasel her way back in. Then, her eyes met mine. And she looked away. I didn't say a word. Didn't gloat. Didn't do anything. I just went back to my workout. Because the truth was, I didn't care anymore. She had already lost. And me? I was just getting started. Oh, and one last thing. A couple of months later, I met someone new. Her name's Ava. She's a physical therapist, lifts heavier than most guys I know, and actually values honesty. And unlike Vanessa, she reads every damn document before she signs it. Feels good, man. Like. Subscribe on rxyphorix.